All right, Rob. Speaking of last strikes, this really isn't the last strike, but guys who are down on their luck, let's put it that way. Two quarterbacks. One was in action last night, Russell Wilson, and I would say when I look at this season from hell for the Denver Broncos, 1-5 is their record, worst start in years.
And think about the game that they won. They were down like 28-0 or something, 20 to the Bears, and somehow the Bears let them get off the mat. They should be winless.
Horrific.
They should be winless.
And they lost to the Jets and Zach Wilson.
Lost to the Jets at home.
To know. That tells you all.
And Zach Wilson didn't even throw a touchdown, Chris. It wasn't like Zach Wilson had this great game or something. You know what I mean? Like an anomaly.
Of course he didn't have a great game.
And they still won easily. It won by 10.
And last night, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 19-8. Okay, the Chiefs didn't destroy them.
Well, when you go 1 for 5 in the red zone, that's why it wasn't a blowout.
Right. And Russell Wilson, Rob, threw for 95 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, was sacked 4 times. Now, like I said, I blame the lion's share of this disastrous season on Sean Payton. But last night, while Payton certainly wasn't awesome by any stretch, remember that timeout he called right before the end of the first half when his team was about to punt on 4th down, and it gave Kansas City just enough time to field the punt, get in field goal position, and kick
terrible,
a 60-yard
Chris.
field goal.
Terrible.
Just horrible. If he was Nat Hackett, he would be destroyed.
He would have been destroyed today.
that.
Like it's just awful.
So while he is mainly responsible, I think, for this horrible season, last night it was on Russell Wilson. And then there's another quarterback, Rob, who won't be in action this Sunday for the second straight game. He's got a bruised shoulder. Deshaun Watson. And here's what I want to say about these two guys, Rob. It's a phrase that we've all heard before, but you should take heed sometimes. Be careful what you wish for. Russell Wilson, Rob, had it going on in Seattle. 9 Pro Bowls, an undoubted Hall of Famer. 1 Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowl appearances. I mean, he was clear. Only thing he didn't have was MVP. And everybody was like, wow, he didn't even have an MVP vote. That's shocking. And he at some point decided he wanted to cook. He wanted a new scenery. He wanted to move on. He wanted to be free, away from Pete Carroll. He wanted to do his own thing. Well, he got his wish. He went to Denver. I'll be the first to admit, I thought Russell was going to be the one to do well and Pete Carroll was going to be the one to struggle. It's been the reverse. And now Russell Wilson may very well be on his way to getting cut in the offseason, and then who knows who'll pick him up. His Hall of Fame status, I think, Rob, is maybe in some question. Maybe. I'm not a voter. I don't know what they'll do, but I think it's probably in some question right now. And then Deshaun Watson, Rob, in Houston, 3 straight Pro Bowls, led the league in passing yards, threw 33 touchdowns his last season. And I get it. The franchise was not being run well, right? They had let go of several great players. So I get his frustration. But, Rob, it all began to go downhill when he decided he wanted out for whatever reason. And obviously he was into some other stuff that came out. And maybe, obviously, if he had stayed there and it would have came out, it still would have been a problem. But it began with him wanting to go elsewhere. And he got his wish, and he got the best contract in the history of football. But, man, if he's mediocre right now, that's a compliment. He might not even be a mediocre quarterback right now. So, Rob, these are two guys that, at least at this point, it looks like they made a couple of bad decisions, bad moves.
Here's my only pushback on you on this. I don't think that staying where they were meant that things were going to be better than where they are. Because I'm just not convinced that either one, because if he would have been Deshaun Watson out for 2 years and came back, I'm not so sure where he would be. And Russell Wilson, Chris, as much as everybody thought it was add water, stir, and you're going to the Super Bowl because they finally got the quarterback they're looking for. People from Seattle called us. You know that on the show. It was like, really? Oh, just wait till you watch him. He ain't the guy that people are making him out to be. We've been watching this deterioration for a while. We're watching from afar. Those are fans watching day in and day out, and they called it. I mean, they did. They called it. They were like, we'll wait and see. And it has been bad. So I hear you about looking for greener pastures or whatever, but Deshaun Watson, he got paid. He got the ridiculous contract, so he got that, and that only happened because he was able to force his way out of there and go to Cleveland where they were desperate for a quarterback, and so they paid up. And Russell Wilson got paid too, a gigantic contract that the extension hadn't even kicked in yet. So he can say, okay, things aren't going great here. Got paid. I'll get my money. I won a Super Bowl. I've been to Pro Bowl. I did all that, Pro Bowls, all that. What can I do? It ain't just me. The defense gave up a 70-piece. We had a first-year coach in Nathaniel Hackett who was awful. He could justify that a lot of it. And I'm not saying last year he didn't play well.
Not to anybody else, maybe to himself.
Yeah, but I mean, there are other extenuating circumstances. That's all I'm saying. So I hear the wishing for greener pastures and all that, and it doesn't always amount to that. But I don't think either one of them are going to lose any sleep about where they are.
Oh, I do. I mean, if you're competitive, this has to eat you up. I mean, if Russell Wilson was paid already and was going to probably get paid again. He would have got – that's where I disagree. I think he would have got paid whether it was in Seattle or if they decided on their own to trade. He still would have been filthy rich. He would have got tons of money. And he was leading them to the playoffs essentially every year. And now he may have struggled, but we never saw him ever look this bad in Seattle. He was in a system that was built around him that he obviously could prosper in. So I think he would have been fine. And Deshaun, Rob, remember Deshaun sat out that one season, that first season, just on his own volition. Like he didn't have to sit out. That's the thing. So now, again, all of the stuff that came out, if that would have come out in Houston, yes, he still would have been in trouble. But maybe it wouldn't have. Who knows? But I think the bottom line is he didn't have to sit out that 1 year in Houston that he did. He didn't want to play, and for some reason, the Texans let him have his way.